Well, hello, one and all. Greetings, infinite blessings, and welcome to another episode of Midday Mindfulness, the spiritual podcast. It is my absolute honor and privilege to welcome and to invite upon the show today James, who is an ascension and soul connection coach, let's say. He guides people from the very start of that awakening process where we discover that reality is not the way that we were once told or tried to be convinced of, and actually that there are a multitude, an infinite number of potential and possible answers that lie within. It's taking that journey into the darkness to then become liberated and connected to the light upon the other side. So James, my brother, thank you for coming on the show today. Thank you for everything that you do in the continued awakening of humanity. And please take a moment to introduce yourself. Let us know what's good in your life and what you are co-creating in this beautiful experience that we call life at the moment.
Yeah, well, I am extremely grateful for you to invite me onto the show, and I appreciate it very, very much. And just within myself, it's with what I'm doing at the minute, I'm just seeking to help anybody who is drawn to what it is that I'm sharing. So every single day I seek to nurture myself first, as always, which is the first kind of little lesson for anyone who's listening. And then from there, I try to help anybody who is willing, with anybody who I work with, or just from posts that I put out online. So it's just flowing with that.
Beautiful. And as you so rightly say, it's not trying to tell somebody or to show somebody. It's just being a guide, as that's what I believe we're all here to do, is to guide each other back home to the self, guide each other back home to love. And it's easy to see sometimes yourself reflected on another person when they are being uplifting and joyful in nature, when they're sharing love and optimistic potentials of reality. But when people at the moment many people are so focused on the fact that there is so much repression taking place within not only the UK, but around the globe, how is it that you could potentially share some information with somebody to remind them of who they are and how to come back into connection with that truth, back into connection with the love that they are, as opposed to focusing on that which doesn't serve them, let's say?
Well, I'd say to start with is now what we've got in the world is an opportunity to fully look at who it is that we are, and more importantly, who it is that we choose to be. So whereas, a couple of years ago, we were perhaps very focused in the job, life, family, going through the motions, flowing through just the process of existing. Whereas now for a lot of people, that's changed because, as they are all profoundly saying, it isn't normal anymore, right? Everything's shifted, everything's changed. There's rules, regulations, and this and that flying around all over the place. So now people are beginning to question, and they're beginning to question, well, hang on a minute. Am I comfortable with this? Is this something that I believe is real and genuine? Does it add up? Does it make any sense at all? So therefore, in this moment, it's probably the best opportunity ever to finally dive within and ask yourself the questions: who am I? What am I? And why am I here? And to really, and, in answer to kind of go down the flow of what you mentioned about that self-love, those three questions, when explored in a gentle and exciting way, can bring the answers to self-love and can help you to understand that you are, and I want to word this in a way that people can really absorb and bring in. If you can accept, or if you can find it to be your truth,
yes,
that you are a being that is infinite and has no end, so to speak, then everything from that moment onwards means that you can live life with more freedom and less personal oppression. Because a lot of the times we hold ourselves back from being who we want to be, So, yeah.
Music to the soul. Fucking hell, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. And that's the truth to it. Once we let go of the desire, or the egoic desire, to be any particular way, to have any particular outcome for anything that's taking place. My most recent embodiment or realization is, okay, I've chosen to come here to help with the laying the foundation to create a world of true equality and betterment for all. The liberation of humanity from itself, to connect to the feminine within myself and to then become balanced in my energetic embodiment of self, to then reflect that out to the collective. As men, we are here to create structure, support, boundaries for the feminine to then flow within. And the way that I was showing it is it's like the river. So I used to believe we're flowing down the river of life. You got to go with the flow. If you swim against it, you end up drowning, etc., etc. I was then shown that I am actually the river, the masculine being the channel that holds structure and direction for the feminine, which is the water, to flow within. If there's no channel, when it rains, the water just distributes over the plain, not really ending up going to the destination of its choice, with all rivers leading back to the ocean. Mm-hmm. With the channel being the masculine, providing structure and direction, without the feminine, it's lifeless. There is no life in it. It's just a dry bed of dirt. So it's the acceptance that we are the masculine and the feminine, that we're holding structure and safety and direction for ourselves to then flow in, and to just do that, to go with the flow, to go where we are most vibrationally attracted to, let's say, because each of us is a unique aspect of the universe, a unique vibration. So when we live in harmony with who we are vibrationally, it's all good. There's nothing that needs to be changed. The repression of humanity does not exist, because it's just an experience the same as the rest of it. Night and dark, day and light, they're the same thing. They're just part of reality. So it's absolutely beautiful. Going back to your 3 questions quickly. Who am I? Why am I here? What was the middle one?
And what am I?
What am I? And what are your answers to those 3 questions, please?
Who am I is completely independent for every single individual. Who am I comes down to intentions. It comes down to choices. It comes down to the desire of the heart and the soul and the mind all in one combined idea. Because for some, this is why you see a lot of individuals, they feel like, well, why doesn't, God give me the answer? Or why doesn't my guides give me the answer? Or why doesn't the universe give me the answer? Whichever word is appropriate. And the reason being is because this reality is unconditional, and its entire purpose is the exploration of your own perspective, which is looking through your own eyes, looking through your mind, your being, your soul. So in order to discover who it is that you are, I would recommend having a look at people's experiences. What have you experienced up to this moment? What has it shown you? And depending on how people feel about this, what are the gifts in the experience, right? I'm talking about bullying. I'm talking about manipulation, about potentially abuse, right? Because I've worked with a lot of people who have been abused in horrific ways. And when you can perhaps understand that abuse can be transmuted into love and compassion for those who are also being abused, then it brings purpose to the experience. Of course, that's something that's kind of a very personal idea that you kind of want to go into a bit deeper with somebody. But regardless, that's, if you can find that, it can again set you free. And in regards to what am I, it's going to be very interesting, but I am going to put it this way. I would have a look at all societies, even societies like the Freemasons, the Skull and Bones. I'd look at all monarchies. I would look at all ancient cultures, religions, all things. Because what you'll notice is the symbolism across all of these different factions, should we say, leads to light. In Egypt, Ra, the god of the sun. Sun, the Son of Christ, the S-U-N of God, Sun, the light. Even in the Queen of England, in her crown, she has the Maltese cross. And if you look at scientists only recently who have been able to photograph a photon, which is a particle of light. So I want to also keep this kind of grounded for people. So if people imagine light and there are particles of light, when photographed, it looks like a Maltese cross, which is what the Templars used. So what am I doing here? What path am I going down? All of these beings and people, even to this present day, understood that we are light. The structure of our reality, the very fabric, the very being that we are is light. It is light based upon, ironically, if for anybody who's watching the video aspect of this call, if you look at the back of Kain's background, you'll see the fractalization of the geometry in the background, right? Obviously not exact, well, perhaps exactly that, but that's what we are. We are a fractalization of light and geometry. So what's the purpose of this? What does this information do for people who are listening? Well, if you can understand that whether you choose a path of light or you choose a path of darkness, you're still light, then you can realize that anything you do in this experience is okay. Or more importantly, it's a choice. And why did I say it's okay? Because it's okay because that comes from a very high level of consciousness, or guides on a very high level who are overseeing the experience on Earth. So if you can understand you are light, you'll realize that you can't die. You cannot be destroyed. You cannot be evaporated or eviscerated, right? People think, oh, when you die, there's nothing. Well, by definition, nothing is something. So even if you die into nothingness, you're still in something, so it's kind of like that idea there. And
beautiful.
Yeah. And in regards to kind of the third question is, why am I here? Well, that's the excitement of it. And there's the key word. So for anybody making notes, it's finding out what it is that you're excited about. What is it that you're joyful about that brings your heart and your power and your fire and your soul forwards? Because as you begin to discover that, you realize that you can do anything, that you're able to move through anything because you've got something to drive for, to live for. And as Kain profoundly said, as you're, the river and the bank and the structure of the how did you say, the canal? Did you say?
Yeah, the channel, the water then flows within.
Which I thought was amazing. I love that metaphor and that idea there, because that's exactly it, right? As you begin to understand the masculine and feminine within you, you begin to bring yourself direction. And as soon as that water starts flowing, there isn't much that will stop it.
There is nothing that will stop it. Truly. It's only ever the self which creates the boundaries and limitations for the self to then overcome. It's the most bizarre experience that we could ever have is life itself. To come here to be an embodiment of what we perceive to be physical, as you say so elegantly, that we are light, we are just that, we are just universal energy, in a way that is simplistically put, or for a scientific perspective, we are atoms, we're energy vibrating at different structures or different frequencies, which then give the illusional perception of structure. So it all comes back to the mind. And as you were saying, if you can go back to an event that was previously traumatic in nature to discover the reason that it took place, that the fact that the way I always relate it is to a Disney film. Quite often the character in a Disney film has a certain path they're upon. A traumatic event happens, quite often the death of a loved one, and then their path changes. And that's the path which then leads them to their happy ever after. Without the traumatic event, they wouldn't have changed direction. Without going into depression, I wouldn't have changed direction. I would have continued to believe myself to be X, Y, and Z, as opposed to letting go and surrendering myself to something greater than this, which is the same self, but just in the knowledge that it is eternal, as opposed to the belief that it is separate and fragile in nature. And it is the most beautiful reconnect to know that you are that energy, that you are that light. And as you say, just to exist in harmony with that, whatever excites you, whatever drives you, whatever fuels you, that is you. If you're, the way I was showing it is color. So we're each our unique vibrational frequency. I'm purple in color. If I try and be red, then I'm not being any good to anybody. I'm not being truthful to myself. I don't feel good. And then I can't actually give my truth or inspire anybody, because I've tried to limit or to change my true self, likened to the sun. If the sun tried to not be the sun, well, we're all fucked because there's no light to be able to experience any of it. There's no light to be able to bring the requirement to grow the crops, etc., etc. And anybody listening that is new to the awakening process and that is potentially finding themselves a little bit isolated, as we all do upon that awakening journey, everybody has a perspective of reality. Everybody has an understanding. When somebody tries to limit you, they're not doing it actually to limit you. They're doing it to retain their version or viewpoint of reality. So on the awakening process, when we start to connect all this new information and we're really excited about it and want to share it with all our loved ones, quite often we'll be met with hostility and told that what's going on? You're being weird. What's all this stuff you're talking about? I don't understand it. And that's it right there. I don't understand it. The most recent YouTube video I did was about racism and my truth to the fact that I would classify myself in the past as having been racist because of my upbringing, because of the lack of information, because that's all I knew. I was shown this. To be fearful of things you don't understand is natural to the ego. Therefore, I was told these people are different and to be wary of them. Therefore, that became my belief, my version of reality. Not until I connected back to the self and then received the information, not from a screen, not from somebody else, but from above or below, in, without, wherever you want to say it is. Then I came into realization that there is no separation. Like you say, we're eternal. And this is just a physical structure so I can experience the experience for whatever it's going to be, knowing that none of it really matters. So yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Who am I? Universal being with unlimited power, knowledge, and potential. What am I? Well, again, the universe experiencing itself, a single element of that eternal self, knowing that, like into the body of water again, a single droplet of water, believing myself to be separate. Upon returning to the ocean, I realized I'm part of the ocean. In fact, I am the mighty ocean itself. And why am I here? Well, why the fuck not? Instead of asking yourself why, ask yourself why not? Why do I deserve to live my best life? Why not? Why do I deserve to be happy? Why not? Why is it that I should meet the love of my life and everybody else shouldn't? Why is it I should live in liberation and freedom, and when there's repression and separation and or enslavement still going on around the world? Why not? Why the fuck not? That's the truth of it. The question why is what leads people to a realization as to why not. Why the fuck not? Let's just live the best life we can. If we all focus on the self, do the work to liberate ourselves from those layers of separation and illusion of old, then we're free. I'm free, you're free, we're all free. And then we can laugh and joke and sing and all come together in love, which is really what it is that you do. And many of us liken to the labelers, light workers around the world, to label it once again. That's what we're here for. We're here to do the work ourselves, on ourselves, to then just be that beacon of inspiration. Going back to being that sun, everyone, please don't limit your light, because if you were born and you're born light, you're born as the mightiest of lights you can imagine. You're born genius, you're born with full connection to everything you could ever require. Society then casts all these layers of separation upon you, likened to putting a cloth over a lamp. When you take that cloth off, when you start to remove those egoic masks of separation so you can see properly and hear properly and speak your truth, quite often you'll become too bright for other people. But again, the sun doesn't care if it's good enough for other people to shine. It doesn't worry if another person likes it, whether it shines or not. And it most certainly doesn't worry if it burns someone. If you go out and sit in the midday sun in the middle of summer, you're going to get burnt. That's on you. The sun doesn't give a shit. The sun just shines. Please continue to be yourself. Please continue to shine your light so that you can be that beacon of inspiration and help guide others lost in the fog and the separation or illusion of the matrix back home to themselves. Beautiful, beautiful. Going back to what it is that you were saying before about working with people and again setting people free from some of the most traumatic experiences that we could even imagine. If we focus on that, then again we lower ourselves to that. So anybody listening that is empathetic in nature, which I know is all of you, and thank you all for all your questions and your beautiful insights. It's beautiful to connect with you all. How is it that you could give one single piece of information, one tip, as if you like, to being able to experience somebody else's experiences, emotions, and events through being empathetic, but then allow it to be released after taking the information from it, as opposed to holding on to it and being affected by it? To see suffering in the world means that we can learn about the suffering and then how to end the suffering. If we focus solely on the suffering and embody it vibrationally, then we are then suffering ourselves. So how do we use our empathetic abilities as a superpower, as opposed to the hindrance that society has continuously tried to make it appear to be? Turn the telly on, there's repression and victimization always on the news. So to start with, don't watch the fucking news. But then what would be the next step? What would be the next step in that process to help people to just connect back to the truth of who they are?
The first thing that I would suggest is, again, seeing where you are in this moment. It's about being in the moment.
Yes.
Right? It's about existing in that moment right there, right then. Because if we start to think, oh my goodness, well, there's all this happening and I want to do everything and all the things under the sun and I want to be able to do this, and you don't feel like you can do it in that moment, yes, you might, with the focus on that idea, start to then feel this, pressure and upset and discord, because you think, oh my goodness, I want to do everything, but I can't. Mm-hmm. Ironically, no matter who I work with or what it is that is shared with me, I don't take it on board personally. And I like to explain this a little bit more. So no matter, because people have mentioned this to me in the past, have said, well, how do you, work with people and kind of let go afterwards and not? Well, it's kind of like, it's understanding that everybody's journey is providing them with everything they need. To put it better, everything that you have right now that you're experiencing, whether you have depression or anxiety or fear, or whether you feel like you're worthless, every single aspect of that is necessary for your existence. So if I was working with an individual and they had anxiety and they didn't know how to move forward, the first thing we do is reframe the experience. Just instead of looking at it as a terrible, horrible thing, realize, okay, you're experiencing anxiety, probably physically it's quite unpleasant, but let's have a look at what it's showing you. What's it providing you? What's it giving you? Where is it taking you? Right? So then for some people and their experiences, this might be a little bit hard to hear, but no matter what it is that's shared, when it is held in a space of, as you said, love, right? When it's held in a space of it's okay to express yourself at the absolute purest of your being in this moment, whether that is hatred, sadness, crying, rage, anger, whatever it is, here you can express yourself exactly as you would like to. So to kind of like go off topic slightly, for anybody who is seeking to help others, my recommendation would be to hold space. And that's it. Listen and try to understand to the best of your ability. Because one of the things that has closed people off and has made people feel disconnected from not only themselves, but everyone else, is that they don't feel understood. They don't feel listened to, right? And as you said, as children, with either parents or teachers or everything, what do we get? Do this because this is the way. Do what I say, do as I tell you. This is the way. Don't do anything else. This is that. Whereas that's an attempt at control, which is, and I don't know how people are going to feel about this. It's no fault of any human being, because again, we give labels to people, mother, father, brother, sister, auntie, uncle, right? But they're just people. So I've worked in a prison and I've been around some very interesting individuals. Again, every single person's story is different, but no matter what label they had, father, mother, daughter, son, brother, sister, they were still people. Okay. Just as people out there in the world, just as people anywhere in the world. So try to set yourself free from the expectation that comes with labels and ideas, and realize that people are people, no matter who they are. And trust me, as I'm saying this, I have not mastered this or become perfect at this by any means. But in returning to that idea, you can begin to let go of more judgment, and therefore learn to listen and understand and hold space to the best of your ability. And when you've had enough, that's enough, like there's no pressure to keep going. You decide in your heart what is enough. So
beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And that goes back to the truth of it, as you have already touched upon, that it's all perfect. The universe is perfect. And this is something that a few people couldn't understand when I used to say to them, you're perfect. And well, how can I be perfect? I'm experiencing this, 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 and this. I'm like, yes. If you look at it as a bigger picture, the universe is perfect. Okay. If you want to label it as God or the universe or prime creator, whatever it is you'd like to label it as, because again, the mind likes to have labels. It exists in perfection. Otherwise it wouldn't exist. Okay. So your unique element of self, whether you like it or not, you have chosen to come here to experience what it is required for your development or evolution of self. Let's say that you wanted to experience guilt and the overcoming of it in this life. You've then come here, you've chosen the avatar character, like playing a computer game. I'm going to choose that character and I'm going to play that game. In that game, there's a multitude of potential experiences to have. We have the ability to create to infinite as a potential. So we could say we're fated to an infinite potential of version of reality. So you can choose any particular direction you wish to travel upon at any given moment. Yes, if we have an expectation or a familiar direction, because again, our parents have told us this is how things are, and then we start walking that same path and we become blind to anything else whilst we're staying in our bubbles of safety and separation at present, and we can't see anything outside of it, then of course we're not going to ever experience anything else. And as you so rightly say, everybody, whether you can believe this or not, I guarantee you it's true. Everything that everybody does is for the same fundamental reason. If you go right to the very start and right to the very end, which is the way I work, I go right to the very beginning and then right to the very end. I can travel. I'm not quite sure really what it is. It's not time travel. It's because time doesn't really exist. I see a line and I can go to the start of it and discover why it is somebody can tell me something. This is this, and this. And I'll just open up and I'll be able to see exactly where it comes from. And I'll say, well, that's because this happened to you when you were 7. And they're like, what the fuck? How do you know that? I'm like, well, I just got shown it. It's just information. I'm able to access that stream of information. And then we go forwards. And like, so this is the version of yourself that you could be. And as you say, it's acceptance. Once we accept it, we don't have to forgive. We don't have to forgive the traumas caused, because if we accept that actually it was part of our journey and what we needed, what was required to bring us to where we are, there's nothing to forgive. It's full acceptance. And through the acceptance of it, we can then actually decide to come back into creatorship of it. Oh, poor me, I'm a victim. I deny that. No. Or fuck yes, that happened to me because actually that's what I required. That's the game that I'm playing. This is the character that I'm playing. This is the game I'm playing. And this is exactly what it was that I chose to experience. In a computer game, when you get to a level that's really difficult, you don't go, oh, poor me, what's the level difficult? You're like, oh, okay, let's learn. We were doing this yesterday. The Last of Us, the second Last of Us, we were playing that. And I was like, okay, you continue to play the game until you've learned how to complete that level. It's the same in life. You'll continue to repeat those same processes until you learn how to overcome them. And everybody, no matter how narcissistic, no matter how much of an arsehole that they may appear to be, they do the best that they can do with the information that they have at their disposal. That's it. And everything we do biologically is for our survival. So we do things to keep ourselves safe. And the very, very fundamental level, the biggest picture of it, the foundation to it all is that we desire love. We all want to feel loved. So if somebody becomes angry, let's say, they're doing so to protect themselves, because by protecting themselves, they're safe, their body's safe, their avatar self is safe. And then when they're safe, maybe they can then go on a journey to experience love. It always comes back to love. Love is always the answer to everything. And it's a beautiful, beautiful way to live, to know that, okay, one of my one of my favorite expressions is love and light and get the fuck out of my way. So it's like, I love you, but if you're going to then try and attach a load of hooks to me and pull me down or pull me off course or tell me I'm wrong, I can see you and I appreciate your perspective and I still love you, but not today. I'm going this way. I've got things to do. And if you're only going to hinder me, then you can go mope over there in the corner. Sorry, I'm going to shine my light. If you're unable to see it, so be it. It doesn't mean that I'm going to lower myself and come and sit over in the corner with you because I'm a failure because I can't inspire you. You're obviously just at a point that balances out, again, the equation, knowing that to experience light, there has to be dark and vice versa. And that if it was only light and only love, then there wouldn't be anything to experience because it would just be this light and love and there'd be no diversity. There'd be nothing to actually reflect it upon. So, yeah, absolutely beautiful. It's music to my ears listening to you speak. It truly is. Truly. And again, upon that awakening journey, knowing that it's coming back into the moment of now, back into connection to the self, I quite often, we're all human. We are beings of eternal light and potential that is infinite, but we are also human and we can become connected back to those old programs that are housed within the mind, let's say. For me, a remembrance is a single breath. So if I breathing in that love and that light, filling myself up and then just emitting it and shining it from me, then I'm back in the flow. I'm back connected to myself. Again, knowing that there are many people that have different perspectives at present, there's many different directions, let's say. How is it that you could share information with people listening to help their decision in continuing upon the path which they believe to be right? Let's just put it like that. If there's people around them that are saying, well, we're being told we should do X, Y, and Z, and I think that we should follow instructions because that's what I'm used to doing, because that's what society does. Do, as you say, do this, 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 and this, and then we become used to it. If there is part of you that is telling you that if it's not broken, don't fix it, basically, to put it into an easy way of understanding, but there is causing friction within the family network, within a family unit, then nobody can quite understand why it is that you wouldn't want to do what everybody else is doing. Okay, everybody else is going over there and doing that, but you don't feel as though you want to do that. So then you're getting ridiculed and outcast for it. How would you, I don't know if this is something you're experiencing personally, is for myself, not so much. The whole not covering my face during January, February time became very, very heavy because obviously the UK was in complete lockdown. I go to the shops, everyone's like, "Oh, it's your fault, is it? You're the person who's spreading it all." I'm like, no, I'm the person that's smiling and trying to share my expression of self. Other than that period, I've been quite separate from it all because I choose not to focus on the repressive qualities. But if somebody is stuck in that place where they're perhaps feeling victimized and outcast, again, how is it that we could reconnect back to the truth and remind ourselves that my decision is my decision, whether it's right or wrong, knowing that it's all perfect and there is no wrong, it's my decision and I wish to live my life the way that I wish to live it.
Well, it's an interesting point because I'm almost going to be a hypocrite with what I'm about to say. But it comes down to two things. Mm-hmm. First of all, doing what it is that you feel is in your highest good at every given moment. Right? Of course, if you can do that whilst also considering others and trying to the best of your ability not to hurt or inflict pain on other people, then fantastic. That's one of my intentions. I always try to come back to that as much as possible. But as I've said, and this is kind of like a goofy way of putting it, you could take one individual and be the best human being you could ever be, never try to hurt anybody, and 3 people fall in love with you and you only want to ever be with one person in your life, then you're going to hurt 2 people at least, and you didn't directly do it. It isn't your fault. It isn't actually because of something you've done directly, but it is a byproduct of who it is you chose to be. So sometimes pain is unavoidable and can be a good teacher when used in the right way. But it comes down to honoring the self. So for example, I've not worn a mask since the beginning. I've not followed any. I've not been in a lockdown. I don't even know what there is to lock down. I've just not. I've been going where I want, doing what I want, when I want. The only thing that has
other than the gym.
Just literally about
the gym was the one thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as I said to somebody, somebody that I worked with, who was being very, very separated and repressed through it, I said to her, "It's all your choice. You can." She was like, "I can't go to my favorite restaurant anymore." And I said, "You can. Technically, you can. There's nothing that you cannot do. If you want to fly, physically, you can't fly yet because you don't believe it. So close your eyes. You can go. You can fly wherever the fuck you want to fly." Your restaurant, you can go there. You could break into the restaurant, you could turn on the cooker, get all the ingredients, cook your favorite meal, and then sit down and eat it. You'd probably get in trouble for it, but you can do it. It just depends whether you want to experience the consequences of the action or not take the action. Then it's your choice again. Then you're choosing to stay in or you're choosing not to. Beautiful.
Well, ironically, on that point there, it comes down to personal power. Right, because you see what is, and for people who are listening who absolutely disagree and say, "Oh, I've had my vaccines, I've been wearing a mask, how dare you say?" Yeah, I get that, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. If that is your path and you're dead set on that, fair enough. That's no one's going to try and stop you. But when you look at, and I'm going off of the government website here, when you look at what they've actually been saying on there, which is not what they've been reporting yet, it's on the government website, I go off of that. And I go off of my heart, my intuition. I've not worn a mask since the beginning, and I've been completely fine. I've not done anything, etc. But coming back to what you mentioned about, breaking into the restaurant, yeah, of course, you could do that, but it comes down to personal power. And what I liken this to is doing things that nobody has the option to tell you what to do. Right? For example, people who are in relationships where financially their partner is in control of all of the money. Mm-hmm. For some people, that's totally fine. But also looking at the implications, right? And if you want to, I don't know, I'm getting a feeling to sort of move away from this idea and keep it to the more aspect. I don't know why, but if you take that to systems of control, governments, monarchies, etc., when they try to take your money away from you and tell you when you can and cannot have it, this is the same thing. It is taking freedom away. It is stopping you from existing in a way that you choose to exist, right? It is fear. Right? Where do you find fear? You find fear in religion. You find fear in governments and systems of control. You find fear all over the place, right? Because fear is one of the most fantastic ways, interesting word, is one of the most incredible ways, should I say, to control a population. Because when an individual is afraid of their life, of losing their belongings, of losing their freedoms, and etc., they will do anything they can to get it back or to do or etc. etc. So it becomes a very, well, it can become a direct
they become focused on protecting the crumbs that they have as opposed to actually realizing that the whole pie has always been theirs. Fear isolates, alienates and separates us from ourselves and one another. Again, it's love. Love's the answer. It's love that is the key that unlocks that door and sets us all free. It's always fucking love. And yeah, it's beautiful. Choose being the creator. It's all a creatorship. If you're playing victim, it's because you've created and cast yourself that character to play. Again, it's your game, to like it back to the game. You've chosen to be whatever character. And if you play the character of lack and limitation, then vibrationally, you'll never walk the path of abundance because the two don't resonate. To live an abundant life is to separate from fear, which is the most, as you say, powerful way of dividing and conquering us, to keep us in our bubble of safety. Even that, they're saying, stay in your bubble of safety. In your bubble of safety, you understand. And this is the ego. This is the whole egoic fear of change. Better the devil we know. I understand what's in this little bubble. So I likened it to a house. So, you live in, say you're sitting in your dining room and that's your safe space. Everything's in the dining room. Okay. You could fit a toilet in there. You could put a microwave in there and, a little pop-up bed, and you could live in your dining room. Great. But why not venture outside of that bubble of safety and realize you've got a kitchen and a front room and a bedroom and all these different areas of life that you can experience different things within? It's the most it's the most interesting vibration, because in truth it doesn't really exist, because fear is only a forward projection. In the moment, if something fearful or scary is happening now, which is the only time that exists, then we're not in fear, we're responding, we're responsive, we're either fighting or flying or potentially freezing. But fear is a forward projection of an unknown event and a desire to control it, or to move away from that potential fearful experience of it. And like somebody said on here, Sai, it's an absolutely beautiful analogy. And this is the way that I relate meditation to as well. Each one of us, this is the perfection of reality and the perfection of you. Whoever you are and whatever information that you have, it is part of the collective information that we are using to expand the consciousness of the self, of humanity, and in truth, the universe. As you expand your consciousness, the universe expands in order to be able to house your continued expansion of consciousness. So it is you that is actually causing the expansion of the universe. It expands for a reason. It expands to continue to be able to house your continued expansion of self. Everybody's information is likened to a field trip. We're here on Earth School. We come here to experience different things, each collecting our own pieces of information and data, returning it back to source, and then having a bigger picture of it all. If we all have our individual pieces of the jigsaw, we all come together and lay it on the table, then all of a sudden we can see the whole picture. It's only when we come together, when we share our information and our experiences with one another, being able to share a story. When I was sick, something happened to me that was traumatic that I've held and housed inside me, and I won't ever share with anybody because I'm too fearful of the way that they'll respond. They might reject me or think that I'm strange. And therefore you hold it in you all the time. If you share it, then you realize that, hang on, it's just a story. It's just something that happened that I was part of. It doesn't define me. It doesn't mean that I am X, Y, or Z. Actually, yeah, I feel better for sharing it. And the more times we share a story, the more it becomes a story that we were part of, as opposed to something that was only us and that we are affected by, and that's all we can see. Yeah, absolutely beautiful, truly. And through the awakening process again, let's say, just to bring a form of completion to today's episode, what is it that would be the number one place for anybody to start? Or what is it that you can offer as a way of delivering information to people to help in their journey? And as you share this, I'd like to just share on the screen for anybody watching on the video your website, so that everyone can have a look and discover a bit more information about you. Free ebook. If anybody is interested, then there's a lot of information here. And James, please walk us through it as we have a look.
Yeah, well, I think, when it comes to discovering the self, or this idea of ascension, it comes down to a few ideas. It comes down to asking yourself about your intentions, which I go on about a lot, but it is really, it's the absolute baseline. Because in order to discover who you are, ask yourself what it is that you intend to do in your life and with people around you. What are the intentions for yourself and for the people who are in your life? And then from that moment onwards and that moment forwards, you can begin to then explore it. Okay, so I want everybody around me to be happy. Awesome. What does that look like? Do you have to be happy yourself, etc.? Do you have to then, nurture and honor yourself so that others can also feel safe and protected? So it's more of a long-term exploration than it is a short-term, but it's an exciting one, and it can free you to begin to have a look at what it is that's important for you. But, kind of with the website, anybody's more than welcome to go and have a look on there. I have my coaching and my guided readings. With my coaching, obviously we dive through everything and anything that you would personally like to explore within yourself. And then with the readings, it's literally we set the intention to connect you with your guides and higher self, and then from that moment onwards we seek to make that a permanent connection where we bring information through meditation and through cards and my own personal intuition, and then yes, we go from there. So
beautiful, very, very colourful and beautiful looking YouTube channel as well, and
I appreciate that.
Relaxation and astral connection meditations. So if anybody was to do anything, if you give yourself only 1 hour this week to do you, please go over to James's YouTube channel and take one of his meditations, because meditation is the way just to disconnect from that mind chatter and the mind desiring anything to be any particular way, and reconnecting back to the eternal truth that it is all perfect just as it is, and that it's all just an experience. And the truth is, none of it really matters at the end of the day anyway. We're born and then we die. It's what we do in the middle that is our choice, as well as actually being born and dying. They're both a choice, because we believe humans can only live to a certain age. We only live to a certain age. We choose it all. We choose to be born and we choose to die, whether we believe that or not. That is the truth. So yeah, please head over. I will attach the link in the comments below, as well as on the actual podcast. And courses. Let's have a look at your courses. So anybody can then connect and discover. Look at that artwork. Absolutely beautiful.
Interestingly enough, the membership is something that I mentioned in the beginning I'm working on, but the first course is on a donation basis. So if anybody wanted to donate a penny or anything, then they're more than welcome to. So because I kind of wanted that to be accessible to all people if they wanted to go through it.
Beautiful.
And that's, so it's all in. There's obviously a bit of information there to guide through to understand, and then
very, very nice website, I must say.
Appreciate
and I know the work that goes into something like this, as I've been doing it myself for quite a while. So yeah, hat off to you. Beautiful.
Yeah, it took a while.
Did you do it? That. Did you do it all yourself?
I did. Yes, I had help from an assistant of mine, but yeah, we just did it all myself. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'll send you over the link to all mine, because it's still up and coming. It's still being developed, but it's going on the same sort of the look as yours.
Okay, awesome.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually housed on the same platform because of the way that it looks.
Interesting.
So yeah, synchronicities once again. Where can everybody find you to connect on socials, to reach out and ask any questions they may have?
Yeah, so I'm the vast majority of my content is always posted on my personal Facebook. So I have a page and a profile. The profile is where I mostly post things. But I've got Instagram and YouTube as well that I post into. But I do need to carry on posting on Instagram and things like that and YouTube. But if anybody wants to really know where I am always, it's my Facebook profile. So which is just James Mallins. Yeah.
And you prefer as a platform, do you prefer Facebook to Instagram? It's easier to distribute information, isn't it? Write-ups.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to Instagram, you've just got to be on there, at least a couple of times a day. And, as we can spend our entire lives on our phones and computers. So I choose not to. But Facebook isn't a bad place just to post and for people to be able to see it that way, really. So.
And just before we go, anybody has a look on Facebook will see your tattoos that you were showing. Give us a look of your tattoos for anybody watching.
So it's going to be a bit difficult to show. I mean, I've got the videos and kind of, I won't show this side because it's obviously my skin is peeling off, but a lot of people might not want to see that. But I've kind of had like a universe type with a native Indian around on, which is actually something that came through about a past life.
Nice.
And yeah, so I've now got my whole arm finished there, and no doubt.
You were saying before we started the show that is to represent your union with divine feminine and masculine embodiment. So as I said myself, people that may first see you from a distance would see quite a large lad with a big tattoo on your neck and potentially become a little bit fearful, especially if everybody's existing in that state of fear at the moment. And as you said, it's the perfect representation of duality. You are the embodiment of duality. So I would suggest that anybody listening, please don't take things at surface level. Take everything with a pinch of salt. Give everybody the space, as we said before, hold the space. If somebody's being a bit of an arsehole, well, that's, we don't know what they're going through. Somebody cuts you up in traffic. They may have just found out that their loved one has died, or that they can't do X, Y, or Z, or something has happened that has put them in that place. If we hold space for everybody, including the self, most importantly, the self, then we come to a position once again when we're free.
The ironic thing about that is, since I've had, especially the tattoos on my neck and hands for the past 7 years, I would say I've only felt like I've been judged twice.
Beautiful.
In that entire amount of time. So it's kind of interesting with the energy that you choose to carry as well for those who are out there. Like, you'll find that no matter how you look, people will feel it, and they'll respond to exactly what it is that they feel, so just interesting kind of idea there as well.
So very, very, not to go too deep at the end of the show, but do they really feel it, or do you then project that feeling within yourself upon them to be able to see it externally?
Perhaps.
If we create it all, my game, I'm player one. So I've created you as part of my game to be able to have this connection, this experience with, and vice versa. You're player one in your game. Everything in your game is for you. And that's the most powerful thing that I could share with anybody listening to end the show from my side, is that it literally is your game. You are the avatar being within it, experiencing the game. You're the player, sat looking at the screen, playing the game, playing the character, and you're also the creator of the game. So where there are trapdoors or secret entrances, where there's treasure chests hidden in the darkness to go and discover what it is that you need to discover in order to complete that level. And quite often it is walking into a darkened room, going into the darkness and just wandering around aimlessly before we trip over something that we discover, but there it is. The treasure that I'm seeking is the exact treasure that has brought me to my knees. If we then actually accept that we've fallen, look behind us to discover the reason why, then that's when we discover those treasures. So it's knowing that it's your game. And if you're experiencing something that you would rather not experience, you go, hang on a minute, this is my game. I'm not playing victim. So, okay, so X, Y, and Z is happening, which I'd rather not be experiencing at the moment, but I'm creating this. So I'm creating it for me. So how can I benefit from it? This is serving my greatest good. How is it serving my greatest good? Or if it's not serving my greatest good, then let's change focus. Let's change direction. Let's choose something that does benefit me in this moment of now. Beautiful. Amazing. James, my brother, thank you. Truly, I've been watching you from afar, not to sound like a weird stalker, but there's been a connection for a period of time now, and it's been an absolute pleasure and joy to actually have you on the show today, to connect with you, to find out a bit more about you. And I know that as we go forwards, there's going to be something else to flourish and develop that we're planting the seeds for at the moment, and then co-creating going forwards. As the more of us that come together, everybody listening, again, going back to light, if we reach a different or unique perspective of that same light, we reach a flashlight. If you focus on something that's repressive, then you are illuminating it, you're growing it. If you focus on something that is uplifting, then you're illuminating it, you're growing it. If you are solely on your own focusing on a world of true equality and liberation for everyone, then there's only that one light shone upon it. If we all come together and focus our lights of attention on the same single object, then it comes into manifestation almost instantly. When there's lots of lights being shone on lots of different versions of potential, then there's lots of different versions of potential being created. It's bringing it all into one. It's coming back into that unity one. And that's what it's all about. We come here to experience separation, to reconnect back to that unity.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you, Sai. So somebody's saying on the comments that before we leave, don't forget to take your share of money, love, and light with you. Because in truth, money is a it's an interesting concept, but it's just energy again. And whenever we deliver or share our information, our energy, then we receive it in whatever medium is most required at any given time. Money is abundant, and the more that we flow it through us, the more that we can change the frequency of it from something of repression and control through the fear of not having it back into love. Again, let's change that frequency of love, of whatever it is separate to love, back to love. It's always love, always. James, I love you, my brother. And to be able to say that is something that would never have taken place years ago, because to tell a man, I love you, to be able to look into your eyes, as it were, and say, I love you, my brother, that comes from my heart to yours. And I say it because I can. So thank you once again, truly.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be on here.
Likewise. Thank you. And everybody listening, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for continuing to do what you're doing and for being you, because in simplistic form, you're perfect. In the bigger picture, you're perfect. In the smallest picture, you're perfect. Everything you do, even a single breath in and out, and just think about this for a moment, a single breath in and out brings you life, brings you the ability to experience it all. Are you worthy of that breath? Well, of course you are. It's yours. You are the breath. So therefore, you're worthy of experiencing everything that you could possibly imagine that comes from that breath. Whatever it is you wish to experience, hold it in your mind's eye and create it in the physical simply through the acceptance of it. It exists. There's a version of you that is experiencing it now in some realm, somewhere, knowing that now is the only time that exists. So why not align with that version of yourself? It's your choice. It's all your choice. Choose you. Choose love. And stay mindful. Love, light, and infinite blessings. Namaste.